Whether you think they are a topic of elaborate theories or a subject we are touching closer and closer on each year, UFO sightings have been a point of discussion for decades. From people thinking aliens are coming to investigate Earth to pose a threat, to people thinking UFOs are just planes or lights, there are a wide range of opinions. A US soldier's eyewitness account. Our next story is a true eyewitness account from a soldier in the US military. Names and other sensitive information have not been disclosed in the following account. I served in Iraq and I'd like to get my story out there. I don't want to say where I was deployed as I don't want to give too much information away. But one strange thing that did happen while I was there was the multiple UFOs that were witnessed by myself and others who were there. At the time, I never opened up and told people about this. It wasn't something I wanted people knowing. And after all, people who talk about these topics tend to get a label put on them. Regardless, these crafts would appear in the sky at around dusk. Sometimes they would be disc-shaped, while other times they would be in the shape of an orb. The size of them varied, but I'd say that on average they were around 25 to 40 feet in length. When these objects first started to appear in the sky, me and others thought it may have been linked to the enemy. After all, it wasn't uncommon to see projectiles in the sky, but these things were different. They seemed to be under intelligent control, being able to go from one place to another in a matter of seconds. On one particular night, one of these UFOs came into view around 1,000 meters from where we were. You could see it because it was pulsating, not in the way that an aeroplane or helicopter gives off light, but rather it looked like the whole object was actually the light. It's tough to explain, but these things seem to have been made of light. On another night, one of these UFOs flew close to the ground, almost as if inspecting the area. After this, it shot up to the sky, leaving a hole in the nearby cloud. To this day, me and my friends who witnessed these crafts have no idea what they were. Aurora, Texas UFO incident. It was almost dawn on April 17, 1897, when inhabitants of a rural American town saw a single alien spacecraft lose control over the skies of Texas. A young boy saw an airship trailing smoke as it headed north toward the town of Aurora, slowing and speeding as it tried to regain control over its trajectory. It sailed over the public square, reaching the northern part of the town where it clipped the edge of a windmill at speed, then veering into the path of the town's water tower where, upon contact, blew into a number of pieces, large and small, in a terrific explosion, scattering debris over several acres of ground and awakening many of the town's residents. The residents that awoke went to investigate the source of their early wake-up call. What they found would astound and stupefy the townspeople. Having read about numerous mystery airships in national newspapers recently, including an abduction attempt, they wondered if this was something not only extraterrestrial, but also nefarious in nature. On locating the ship's sole occupant, although the pilot was dead and disfigured from the crash, they soon realized that he was clearly not an inhabitant of this world. Furthermore, strange markings in the manner of hieroglyphic characters were seen on the internal control panel. Terrified of the unknown, the townspeople hurriedly buried the body in the local cemetery, and removing the wreckage in the hope that the incident would disappear from the town's history. But that would not be the end of this. Some decades later, an investigative reporter wanted to find out once and for all the facts behind this extraterrestrial cover-up. The investigator began with trying to locate the remains of the spacecraft itself. One Aurora resident interviewed claimed the whole thing was a fabrication, maintaining there had never been a windmill for the craft to collide with in that town. It turns out there was no windmill to be seen. However, further investigations revealed the remains of a windmill base were found. Was this Aurora resident still continuing the cover-up all these years after? More was added to the mystery, as the nearby site of the old windmill was a deep well. A sweep of the well would reveal metals in the water itself, some elements such as aluminium and silver, but others that were unidentifiable in this planet's periodic table. Could this water well be where the spacecraft's parts had been dumped back in 1897? The presence of metals surprised the well's owner. However, he disclosed that having started using the well, he began to feel pains in his joints and soon diagnosed with early onset arthritis that could be associated with contaminated water. With the location of the spacecraft possibly found, the investigator moved to locate the extraterrestrial pilot. He went to the Aurora cemetery, and ground-penetrating radar and photos from prior visits brought to light an unmarked grave in an area near other burials from the 1890s. He discovered a grave marker and headstone that seemed to show a spacecraft of some sort, as well as faint readings from his metal detector again. This was surely the conclusive evidence he was looking for. After putting the pieces together, the investigator returned to the town, looking to ask for permission from the Cemetery Association to perform an exhumation, and to conduct a more major operation of retrieving the spacecraft's pieces from the well. Not only did the Cemetery Association refuse his request, but upon returning to the site to take photos, not only had the grave marker mysteriously disappeared, but the metal readings now showed nothing. Returning to the well, the investigator had a feeling he knew what he'd find. The metal detector now also didn't pick up anything either. The UFO landing in Aurora, Texas would remain an unexplained mystery. 2007 Aldeny UFO Sighting. In 2007, two experienced airline pilots on separate flights reported seeing the same mysterious object hovering off the coast of Aldeny. Captain Ray Boyer was flying a plane of 5 passengers from Southampton to Aldeny when he noticed a bright light ahead of him. At first, he assumed the light was from a reflection of the sun, but when the light remained completely stationary, he began to grow cautious. Taking out a pair of binoculars to observe the light in more detail, he saw it was cigar-shaped with a green area, pointed ends, and was emitting light downward. Boyer would later state in his 9 years of flying he had never seen anything like it. Even more strangely, behind this light, Boyer saw a second identical light. Conscious of the safety of his passengers, Boyer continued with the flight. After landing, Boyer asked the passengers if any of them had seen anything unusual, and a number of them reported spotting the same stationary and luminous light in the sky. Some were so convinced by what they had seen, they agreed to submit a report to go public with their sighting. When Boyer relayed what he had seen to air traffic control, he was told a similar report had come in from Blue Island pilot Captain Patterson. Patterson's flight had been further away from the light than Boyer's, but he too had reported a yellow and beige light that posited some type of atmospheric phenomenon. The sightings did not end there, though. BBC Radio Guernsey reported that a couple had been on a walk that afternoon and returned to their hotel, inquiring about the 2 bright yellow lights in the sky above Aldeny. Even more concrete proof came when it was shown that Jersey's airport's primary low-level radar had registered the presence of 2 objects in the area. Boyer and Patterson were both convinced they had seen UFOs. Skeptics have argued against them and instead proposed the 2 lights were either a military aircraft, a sundog, or Earth lights. Firstly, for some the description of the 2 lights could have been secret military aircrafts in the local airspace. The presence of such aircrafts would be extremely dangerous and illegal, and notably the Ministry of Defense and French military both issued statements to say they had no part to play in any potential military exercise. Secondly, astronomers have put forward the theory that the 2 lights were caused by sundog effects. Sundogs usually appear close to the sun and tend to be coloured. While the description of the sundogs fits the profile of the lights Boyer and Patterson spotted, what is problematic is that the 2 lights were reported at an altitude of around 2,000 feet, much further below the sun than sundogs would be. The third and final theory put forward was that the lights were the result of Earth lights, sunlight reflected from the Earth's surface. Earth lights appear as luminous and coloured objects, but once again, while they fit the profile of Boyer and Patterson's sighting, their location does not. Earth lights do not occur over water, and the lights Boyer and Patterson reported manifested themselves above the sea. July 11, 1991, UFO Mexico. Over the years, there have been many reported UFO sightings. Most of them can be easily dismissed because of the fact that they were claimed to have been seen by only 1 or 2 or a handful of people, and because of no reliable photographic evidence. However, there are some UFO sightings that have been seen by thousands of people at a time and cannot be dismissed easily. A similar UFO sighting took place in Mexico. On July 11, 1991, people of Mexico City had prepared to see a total solar eclipse. They had gathered in large numbers at various parks and open areas to see the amazing spectacle of nature. Many people had their video cameras ready to capture the eclipse, but they had no idea they would be seeing so much more than the solar eclipse. During the eclipse, people reported seeing a large metallic disc flying in the sky. Many people were able to make videos of the UFO, and it was even broadcasted on the news. The UFO was spotted by people in other Mexican cities as well. Later, when the investigations were carried out, it was discovered that different videos made at various places had all captured the same UFO. However, no official explanation came out from the government, and no one can say for sure what this mysterious UFO was. Some people believe that the United States had something to do with the UFO, and there is a strong possibility that it was an undisclosed US aircraft. However, in 2004, a new theory about the 1991 Mexican UFO emerged and became viral on the internet. It claimed that the United States was at war with the alien UFOs, and most of the confrontation was taking place over the continent of Antarctica. According to the report, the UFO seen over Mexico City in 1991 was a part of that larger war going on between the United States and the aliens. However, as you would expect, there is no evidence supporting such a big claim. Remarkably, the 1991 UFO sighting over Mexico City was just the first UFO sighting in a series of sightings over the next couple of decades. Since the first sighting, Mexico City has become a hub for UFO activity. Many people believe that the government of Mexico has much more evidence about the 1991 sighting and the subsequent sightings, but the government is trying to cover the UFO incidents for unknown reasons. Clyde Tombaugh and UFOs. Clyde Tombaugh was an American astronomer who discovered Pluto. It was the first object to be discovered in the Kuiper Belt. Clyde Tombaugh also discovered a number of asteroids. During the huge amount of time he spent searching for distant planets and space objects, he came across a number of UFOs. During his life, he emphasized the scientific community to carry out research on the unidentified flying objects. The Wikipedia page on Clyde Tombaugh, other than giving a lot of information about his work related to discovery of Pluto and different asteroids, also discusses his interests in UFOs. In 1949, Clyde Tombaugh saw several UFOs near Las Cruces in New Mexico. He described seeing up to 8 rectangular lights for about 3 seconds. A couple of years later, he reported seeing another UFO. At that time, he was working at an observatory in White Sands. According to Tombaugh, during his work, he came across 3 different objects that could not be explained with any of the known phenomenon. He also hinted that these mysterious objects could have an extraterrestrial origin. Clyde Tombaugh was a firm believer of extraterrestrial life, and according to a quote associated to him, he believed that there could be hundreds of thousands of habitable worlds in our galaxy alone. He believed that the races on those worlds might have been able to bridge the space between different stars by utilizing the tremendous amounts of power at their disposal. Although most of Clyde Tombaugh's work is publicly known, there are surely some secrets associated to the work of such high-level astronomers that are kept secret by the government, and it would not be a surprising thing if much of that work kept secret belongs to the unidentified flying objects.